Today we're going to review the Ongoing Concept's new record, Places. Real quick, before we start this video, I want to mention that the giveaway that was mentioned in the update video is still going. This is almost sort of a bonus video as far as that's concerned. So make sure you share our last video, the update video, tag us in it to be entered into that Ripped Apparel shirt giveaway. You don't want to miss out on that. Welcome back to another Just One Cent, where I am actually going to do one. Today I want to talk about one of the new records from one of my favorite bands of all time, the Ongoing Concept. On the 6th of October, the band released their third record, Places. This record is still in a solid state and is their follow-up to their second album, Handmade, which is honestly my favorite album of the band. These guys are the DIY kings of music. The driving force of the band, Dawson Scholes, edits, records, produces, mixes all their records, and films, produces, edits all their music videos. These guys approach their music with a really hands-on technique, and as a music lover, I appreciate that they're trying to keep it within the creative bounds of themselves instead of writing some songs and handing off to someone else to do with whatever they want with it. Before we go all the way into the record, I want to talk about the lineup. Previously they had the Scholes brothers, Kyle, Parker, and Dawson, and they also had TJ Nichols, a part of the band, on Handmade. Since Handmade, 3 of the members have left and been replaced. Dawson is the only remaining original member of the band, which sort of got me wondering if maybe there was a bad breakup with him and his brothers and the other guy, but I don't want to start rumors that I don't know to be true. So let's just move on. Something else I want to mention before we jump to the album is their music video for You Will Go, the second track of the record. In that video, Dawson is actually visiting all the places that the other music videos took place. He's going through all these places and I think somewhat reminiscing of what the Ongoing Concept used to be. And then it ends with him going into the bar, hugging all his friends, shaking everybody's hands, and then going and performing with the new members of the band the rest of the song You Will Go. And I thought that was a really cool concept for the video. I don't think it was executed 100% to perfection, but it was a great video, and if you're a fan of the band, you'll really appreciate this video. Alright, let's get into the record. The first thing I noticed when looking at the record is the artwork. I'm not a huge fan of the artwork. I think it looks cool, but I'm not that huge of a fan of it. The cover is a picture of Dawson fishing with a guy that's presumably his dad. His dad has got a guitar and they're just chilling out on a floating dock. When I started looking into the sleeve of the record and the pictures all throughout the record, there seemed to be a picture that was used about 3 times, just zoomed in and zoomed out, and I'm not a huge fan of that, but the artwork is still pretty good. The next thing I noticed is the credits and the thank yous. There's a part in there that really caught my attention I thought was really interesting. They credit former member Kyle for playing keys on a few tracks and doing vocals on the last track. And they also credit Parker for playing drums on a few tracks, which I thought was really cool, and to me it shows that there's not necessarily bad blood in between them. Maybe there was just a difference in the direction they wanted to go with the music or the direction they wanted to go with their own lives. Maybe they just didn't want to be in the music anymore. Maybe they still like performing it but not touring. But again, that's all speculation and I don't want to start anything that's not true. Other than that, the album is pretty much made entirely by Dawson, which is not really a surprise at this point, but it's still impressive. The album starts off with the intro track called Places. It's actually the intro track of Handmade played in reverse until it fades into some synth sounds and eventually comes in with guitar and vocals. After that, the album comes in full force and with a ton of power. And that's something I love about this band, is that they never disappoint in the energy and the attitude they bring to their music. I just love it. It's just so much energy and it's so punchy and it's in your face. And that's what I like in heavy music and metal. They do, however, continue the trend of having one song that's seemingly out of place in context of the record. And that song for this record is track 7, called Bargain. While the song is out of place for the record, it's really no surprise for them to have a song like this, because they had a song like that in Handmade and they had a song like that in Saloon. So they're sort of following the same trend, and I appreciate that, but it didn't catch me off guard. And I would like to be caught off guard to a certain extent with this band and their future records, because I like the change and I know that they're always going to be great and original with what they bring to the table. But still a good song. The song talks about doubt, doubting your purpose in life, doubting whether or not you're fulfilling that purpose. And that's really something I appreciate as a fan of music. I like to hear the doubts and insecurities of the people writing the music that I tend to sometimes put on a pedestal and think that they're so much greater than me, but then they sing about all the doubts they have and it's like, oh, well, they're just people too. They have doubts, they have concerns just like me. There's a line in the song that's repeated And that line is, "I don't know if I'm keeping my end of the bargain," which makes me think maybe Dawson is questioning whether or not he's keeping his end of the bargain with maybe the label, maybe his brothers, former members of the band, maybe even the fans. It makes me feel that Dawson is doubting whether or not the music that he's making is good enough for everyone in his eyes. Maybe he thinks that he's not meeting everyone's expectations. Doubt is one of the many themes that can be found on this album. The record also talks about growing up, feeling lost, changes in life. It's clear that some events have taken place within the band and even individual members' lives that has affected them, maybe shaken them, has their mind churning out doubts and concerns. When I listen to the record and read the lyrics, I just get this feeling of a man that's just worn down from life. A lot of things has happened in his life and he might not know exactly how to deal with them, and all these questions are popping up in his head, and he's thinking that maybe he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing. And that sort of resonates with me because I have these same questions a lot myself, these existential thoughts, doubts, and that really comes across on the record. But the whole album isn't just an amalgamation of depression. Track 4 of the record, and also one of the singles of the record, is called The Print. And if you've been listening to the band for very long, that title might remind you of CoverGirl, one of the singles from their first record, Saloon. Both CoverGirl and The Print talk about originality and the lack thereof in music today. It's pretty clear that the band really values originality and aspires to be original in everything that they do. And they are. And you can tell it, and it comes across, and it's great, and I really love it. The Print also refers to the previous records and a couple lyrics in the line. At one part he says, "I'm a failure and a fake." You might realize that song title from Saloon, Failure and Fakes. And then another part of the song he says, "I'm just unwanted." You might recognize that song title from Handmade, Unwanted. And that's something you always get with these guys, continuity. The continuity of the band is pretty crazy. Their second record, Handmade, begins with the last song of the first record, Saloon, being played through a truck speaker until the driver gets out and proceeds to chop down a tree. And that plays into the whole theme of the record, Handmade, where they literally chop down trees and made their own instruments, which is insane. They make their own guitar, they make their own bass, they make their own drums. It's just really awesome. You can see the entire process on YouTube, on their YouTube channel. But anyway, back to the continuity. The last track of Handmade is basically a sequel from the last track of Saloon. And then, like I said, this record, Places, begins with the intro track of Handmade being played in reverse. And the last track of Places is also a sequel to the last track of Handmade. There's just this huge sense of continuity between the records and the band, and it's really awesome to see how much time and effort they put into connecting it all together. And if you've been a fan of them for long, you'll really appreciate all these little Easter eggs and bits and pieces they put into each record that ties you back to the last record and the record before that. It's just really awesome, and that's something I really appreciate in the band, to see how much time and effort they put into their records, instead of just churning out a 10-track record because that's what their contract says they need to do every 2 years. Now let's talk about my favorite and least favorite parts of the album. My favorite song on the record is probably either the second track, You Will Go, or the fourth track, The Print. I also really love the chorus of the third track, Shake It. It has a lot of power and energy, same thing throughout all of the songs on the record, which is great for me. But it just has a little bit more punch to me, and Dawson goes up to those really high screams and sings that he goes to, and it sounds awesome. My favorite song lyrically on the record is track 6, Domesticated. There's a line in that song that really resonates with me. That line is, "I don't know who I am, I can't see myself anymore. I'm not sure who I am, but I gotta try to be a man." I've had that same feeling a lot of times. I love the lyrics of that track, but I'm actually less of a fan of the actual song. It's one of my least favorite songs on the record, honestly. I like all the songs on the record, but that is one that I definitely like less than others. It actually sort of sounds like the Fairly Odd Parents theme. If I'm just listening to that song in the background, not really paying attention to it, sometimes I even think I hear Large Fry Chocolate Shake. Another song on the record that I'm not a huge fan of is the 9th track, called Punisher. That's probably my least favorite song on the record, but again, I like all the songs on the record. That's just the one I like the most, less than others. Another thing I like about the record is the fact that they like to sing about how hard it is to write songs. They wrote a song about it. It's called Off the Cuff. It's the 5th track on the record, and it literally sounds like something that was recorded on improv. He's saying stuff like, "I am speaking off the top of my head. Now I'm thinking of things I could say instead." The song talks about how much they want to say and they don't want to mess it up. It talks about overthinking the lyrics. and writing under pressure. And I think it really does a good job of conveying to the audience the idea that writing songs to make records for a contract that you've signed with the label can be difficult. I think sometimes fans, including me, take advantage of the fact that every 2 years one of my favorite bands has a new record and they got 10, 11, 12 new songs on it, and they're all going to be awesome, and they're all going to be deep, and they're all going to have a lot of meaning in it, when that might not be the case, because sometimes you get writer's block and you just can't think of anything to write about. I write songs myself and I experience that a lot, but I'm sure it's not even close to the degree that these bands experience when they have to write songs for a record every 2 years and it has to be churned out like a process almost. I'm sure it's hard to find inspiration when you're told that you have to make a record and you agree to make a record on a schedule. It seems to maybe take out a little bit of the artistic side of writing songs and lyrics, but a lot of bands do it and they do a great job of it, and they have all these deep meanings in their songs, and I really love it. The band really lays out all their feelings on the record, and that's something else that I really love about this band. They're not afraid to talk about how they feel. And again, I love the energy and the attitude that they have in all their songs. The 8th track on the record is a great example of that. The song is called Oh Me, and it comes in right after Bargain, the ballad of the track, and it has a lot of energy. It just comes in full force and in your face. And I think that juxtaposed the softer side of Bargain really adds to how powerful the next song is. The song is fast and boasts lyrics like, "You don't owe me anything, you don't have a say in the way I choose to live, and just kill me." It's just another great example of how fierce the band can be, which is something I love about the Ongoing Concept. And last is the outro of the record, the 10th track on the record, called Spirit Lake. Like I said before, it's basically a sequel to the last track of Handmade, which that was basically a sequel to the last track of Saloon. Again with continuity. It's awesome. The song has a blend of their lighter side mixed in with their usual heavy, punchy drums and their wiry guitar tones. It continues the theme of the last records by repeating some lines that were in both of the last tracks of the last records, and this wasn't a huge departure from Handmade. A little bit of a departure, but not a huge departure. And yeah, so thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.